What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with another Summoners War update video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As you guys know, we got a balance patch coming on board, and what we like to do is that 1-2 watch race where we focus on some of the unique monsters in the game that may have an impact on the meta. And today I have brought, once again, Mr. Badhands, the co-leader of Epicfell Delta. How's it going today, boss?
Good, Childish. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I know he's like kind of cringing right now at the fact that he thought I was going to fail the intro about 32 times, but it didn't happen today. I'm sorry, my man. You're just going to have to soak it up and save the laughter for later.
I know. It happens almost every time, so this is good.
He is correct. He is correct. So before we get into all this, I do want to drop a quick message. Again, we are both in the Epicfell Delta crew. If you guys don't know, we have a 6-guild community in Epicfell, and Delta is our G3 ranked guild that has done really, really well on the Guild Wars. And of course, now with regards to the Siege, we are looking for a couple more players to fill in our ranks. I think about 4 players or so. With endgame units, runes, and synergy, and we prefer, people with about Guardian 3 experience. So just from a little background of ourselves, we have a nice handful of top 10 finishes, as well as a good handful of top 4, top 5 rank finishes on the Guild Wars side with respect of not rushing. As you guys know, Epicfell Alpha rushes, we do not. So essentially anybody in the top end of our category that does not want to rush, they're in our community, and so we kind of enjoy our Saturdays. If you're about joining your Saturday and then making a little bit of effort throughout the week with regards to Guild Wars Sieges, definitely tune into that. But before we get into that, anything else you wanted to add, my man?
No, that's really about it. We're looking for 4 strong players to come out, fill up our Siege roster, because we're at 21 right now, so we're looking to get up to that 25. And we are going to be playing high-level Sieges, so we are going to be going against the top guilds and Sieges as well. We've won our first 2, so we're in that top group right now, so we're in there grouped off with EFA, Malicious, Malevolent, all those fun guilds. So if you're looking for a challenge and want to come on board, we're looking for you.
All right, so let's get right into it, guys. We have, of course, a very, very surprising balancing patch for those that know a little bit about Comptos. They drop this balance patch once every 19 months, and out of those 19 months, or sorry, correction, out of the balance patch that comes on, there's like a 92% chance that it's going to be irrelevant as far as the units that we want. But I think we can honestly say that Comptos has listened, has changed a couple of units that really should be unique. I'm motivated to build a few. So we're going to be taking a look at basically the ones to watch. We got a nice handful of units that will be, I think, pretty relevant, as well as some that may not be as relevant as you guys might think, but we're definitely going to make a little honorable mention here. We're going to drop our top 3 right now. First one of which being one of the Nat 5s that I really have grown to love, and then of course took a break because I pulled Kumar and he kind of took his runes. But either way, we got Mr. Chandra, the Water Beast Monk. The second skill, Defend, originally called the Hug for all you old school players out there. Now with Defend, it is going to add a counterattack ability on the enemy target that you put the defend on. So of course the defend aspect, it's going to be taking all the damage from that monster and then taking it over to Chandra. Chandra going to be able to mitigate 50% of that, and then the aspect of the countering attack, it's going to be 100% chance, so like the counterattack buff that you've seen on other monsters. It says it's a 100% chance with the escorted ally is inflicted with damage. And of course, when we looked at our list, out of all the units that have been changed, I believe we'd have to say this is our #1 unit to be up there in the top 3. What do you think?
I 100% agree. Chandra already has the stun on skill 1, so you don't even have to build him Despair, and he's going to be 100% counterattacking whenever his defended ally is attacked, which is huge. So let's say you're using him with Theo, he throws that up on Theo, people are trying to drop that Theo quick, he's revenging, potentially stunning everyone's units because they're all going after that Theo. So to me, it's a massive, massive buff for him. He still doesn't have the heal, obviously, that some of the other Beast Monks have, but with his amount of damage he has, still, if you build him on a violent build, still going to give you stuns and revenges for free, so you don't have to build revenge set, you don't have to build despair set.
Yep, definitely. And I was just talking to Badhands on the side. There's a couple of unique monsters that have really, really key, either just really good damage on the first go or really unique harmful effects or aspects that it can bring. When I think about Jingzhe, I really like him. If you think about the aspect of focusing down other monsters outside of Jingzhe, Jingzhe is going to be able to counterattack and potentially stun. If you do go for Jingzhe, then you're going to have to deal again. If Chandra's buff puts it on board, you're going to have to deal with even more counterattacks on him, and then other units that are brought into that category. It's just essentially if it's like a fire-based healer. I mean, there's multiple ways to keep units alive here, so I'm pretty stoked about it. I mean, I can't even begin to describe how excited I am because I've had Chandra forever, and considering now we have the Guild War Sieges, and we're obviously all of the endgame players are looking for a couple more monsters to kind of fill in the void for that second half of the match if we get to that point. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
And he still has the attack speed slow on that third skill as well.
Right.
So, which is an AoE. So he's adding a lot more utility now. And with the defend automatic counterattack, I mean, that just puts him into that same boat where Leica was before, but Chandra didn't have to get hit. He's 100%. He could obviously be stunning. So to me, it's going to be a good buff for him and definitely make him usable again.
Gotcha. And just one thing to throw out there, I don't know if we'll do it for every single monster, but considering some people are obviously going to be dusting him off bad hands, if you had the choice, we already made the comment about building him. I know some people have built him, or rebuild him in a violent set or whatnot. Some people have built him in a kind of bruiser format to provide some damage. Some go speedy support. I really like speedy support, but I'm looking for your feedback on that. How would you build it if you were going to incorporate it into your defense?
I'd build him similar to how you'd build a Retesh. Retesh is predominantly built as a copper prevention, so HP, HP, HP with some high crit and a good amount of speed as well. I personally would build him violent because defend gives him an extra turn, so if I can proc another extra turn off that extra turn it already gave me, I'm just cycling through his skills so fast that I'm able to get more defends out, which potentially, if he's got 2 defends on the other 2 monsters, he's be countering attacked whenever someone hits either of them. So that to me is a huge benefit now. You can obviously build him with some damage, but for me, I'm going to build him that tanky bruiser with some speed and some high crit, so he potentially can get a lot of attacks in on that counterattack.
Most definitely here. All right, let's take a look at the next one. For our top 2, we have Harmonia, the Fireheart Magician. Really unique monster here. It's got a heal, a immunity for 1 turn, and then of course that manipulation on the HP on its 3rd skill. Now we have something incorporated here. It looks like it's going to be able to remove all harmful effects on an allied target and recover the HP after removing the harmful effect. And that's going to be on its healing music. So it's an added effect on top of its original skill. Obviously when I initially talked about it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be relevant unless the AI has changed. And of course, I slapped myself in the face because he's like, dude, look down below. Like the AI is going to change and it's going to be focused on it. So when I think about unique monsters in the game that have passives that allow you to focus on the monster that's taking a lot of damage, the Rakunis, the Kamoons, I feel like this is going to be relatively relevant, and it's a fire-based healer, right? We don't have a lot of fire-based healers out there that are up in the end game that people are using all the time, so I'm pretty excited about it.
It's a great buff for her because a lot of the times you want to use that second skill to throw the immunity out, but someone's got HP recovery on them, so you're wasting kind of the heal aspect of it. Right. Now you can target that person with the HP recovery. It's going to remove the HP debuff. It's going to throw the heal out after the debuffs are already removed, and then you're going to grant immunity on them for 1 turn, which isn't a great thing having only 1 turn immunity, but it's a lot better than 0 turns immunity. So her 3rd skill is obviously her strong suit, but this buff just makes her that much stronger. In Delta, we've already used her quite a bit in different areas as far as defenses go and as offenses. So for us, it's just a great added buff to a monster who was already pretty strong.
Gotcha. And again, with regards to this one here, we thinking violent with like a speed HP format?
I would suggest violent. Doesn't necessarily have to be will. Could be nemesis. Could be endure. She does get the resistance awakening, so she's going to have pretty high base resistance. But either like a violent will nemesis, either speed HP, or even HP if you got really good runes. But the best thing about this monster is it's free now, so it's a fusion, so everyone has access to it.
Definitely. And of course, one of the things that I wanted to mention on that is since it is free, one of the things that people kind of consider is, hey, we're building all these unique monsters. Like you've always talked about the aspect of, skilling out a monster and not seeing the true potential about it, Childish. Well, like Bat has just said, now you do have the opportunity, if you want to take the time to grind it out, you can get free skill ups. And for people like myself and Bat Hands that are, playing at the upper echelon of Guild War, in G3 Guild Wars, and of course now we're working our way up at the Siege. Anything you do to get an edge or your opponent, like if you don't want to, if you don't want to do the work, somebody else will. So it comes down to getting the luck when it comes to summoning, or taking the time to get those skill ups to do what you need to be done. Anything else you want to add to that, boss?
I think that's really about it on Harmonia. It's already a strong monster, and this just makes her that much stronger.
Definitely here. And of course, the next one here is not going to be thinking about the end game players out there. We're talking about all the people in the Summit Sport community. Even for some of those out there that have been playing since 2014, we got a little flashback to the past here. Mr. Amon, the Light Bear Man here, coming back strong. Originally was a 15% recovery amount heal on the passive Crushing Power. Went down to 12%, I believe, in 2015, and now has jumped back, surpassing the 50%, going all the way up to 20%, which is pretty crazy, considering how well you can build them. You know, how much value you can get if you have some really good runes with some HP subsets. So pretty unique there, Bad Hands.
I think it's great because it gives beginning players another option, because pretty much everyone had gone away from Amon since 2014, and it's nice to how now they have an extra option in there where, okay, we've got Bella, we've got Konamiya, they both kind of heal, but to have a consistent 20% every turn it goes healer early game is really powerful. I remember the first time I was doing Dragons, I couldn't do it without Amon because there wasn't any other options. And now that he's basically a decent option now. Is he going to be a great endgame? Probably not. Is he going to have some use in Siege? Maybe. Is he going to have use in TOA Hard? Probably. But it's going to be a good monster that you probably don't even have to 6-star. Maybe just 5-star will get you through Giants to start with. And, I mean, it's pretty solid buff for him, I think. So it's nice that they're giving some love to an old-school monster.
Definitely. I can't even wait. I cannot even wait here. So let's get into our honorable mentions here. We have to start out with the one that everyone's kind of cringing about. Like, bro, like, we've been waiting for a Vanessa buff since, like, whatever it is, 2015, 2016 here. Ever since the math came out, and you're like, dude, you didn't even talk about it in the first one. Like, let's get it out there. So, Vanessa, unique passive. Yeah, additional passive, right? It wasn't even a passive there. Warrior's Return originally revived a dead ally with 30% HP and recovers by 50% per turn for the next 2 turns there when it's revived. For those that are, cringing about the fact that this is why is this not so good? Maybe you're new to the game. Welcome to the channel, by the way. This just didn't compare to his other 33 speed counterpart. And then if you think about this aspect of Revive, it's very similar to a 3-star monster by, I believe it's Michelle, if I remember, the Wind Epicon Priest, if that's the correct name there. And then, of course, now the passive is now the new change. Revives another ally with 30% when it's inflicted with fatal damage that can lead to death, and increases the attack power by 1 turn. So, me personally, I have used this quite a bit early on in the game, and when I use it with mid-range comps that had a little bit more bruiser approach, more support kind of approach, where in this particular instance, it's providing a unique passive for reviving, but the buff that it's including to it is the attack power for 1 turn. So what's your thoughts about that, boss?
And that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking too, is that predominantly Vanessa's used in tankier teams. I can see like a maybe if you've got a really fast Bastet and you've got 2 synced Lucians, you could do something like Vanessa, Lucian, Bastet. But even then, that's the only time I think it's really going to take the tower, or going to really gain the attack power bonus there, because most of the time I've seen Vanessa, it's with a Praha, it's with 2 tanky bruisers, and that's really what I see her used with. So the attack power buff, well, it could be great if you've got a really fast synced Lucian team that you can use Vanessa with, if you have a really fast Bastet or really fast Megan. But besides that, I don't think it's that great because it gives you that attack power and you lose the HP over time. But I still think it's a solid enough buff for what Vanessa is used for, but does not even come close to comparing to Bisama still.
So. Right. And so let's say Comtos is in fact watching. If you had one opportunity, one chance to kind of say, hey, let's change that attack power buff to something else, what would it be and why?
If you really wanted to make her strong, I'd change it to Endure. So you revive someone and then they can't be killed right immediately that next turn.
I like it.
Because that way they get a turn. That, to me, that would make her usable and make it really strong. But that's the only way I can see really making it where I'd go, ooh, maybe I need to build my Vanessa now.
Right. Let's see here. Next one here that we wanted to mention. I guess we'll kind of go right down the list since it's right under it. On the Contours forum list, that's Shihu, the Water Monkey King. The 3rd skill, Alter Ego Attack. It is A unique skill that's going to be, I think it's going to hit 4 times and has the opportunity to do some really, really good damage and then provide the invulnerability and the immunity after that. Invulnerability for 1 turn, immunity for 2. Now it's going to be going down, cooldown by 1 turn, and then, it goes down to cooldown by 1 turn if the attack lands as a critical hit. That was the original one, and now it removes the enemy's beneficial effects with a 50% chance if the attack lands as a critical hit. So obviously this unit was already built with the aspect of making sure you could take advantage of this added bonus from the critical hit. But the thing that kind of, I think, stirred us away was the enemy beneficial effect removal is nice, but it's only a 50% chance.
I don't understand why they did that. To me, it's basically they're trying to make the 3rd skill the same as Ethna's. And Ethna's hits 5 times, if I'm wrong.
Correct.
I think it hits 5 times, yeah. With a 100% chance beneficial effect each hit. Water Monkey King's going to hit 4 times with a 50%. And Ethna stuns, and Water Monkey King's going to gain invincibility and immunity. I really don't understand why not just make it a 100% chance. Because that way, at least, if it was a 100% chance, I'd probably use him more. Because I'd use him against Rakans, use him more against Leikas. Because that skill hits hard. Same kind of Ethna's. Ethna's hits hard. Water Monkey King's hit hard. But with only 50% chance, you're taking kind of a pretty big gamble there, which means you're going to have to get a lot more accuracy subs because, well, if you only have 50% chance, when you do have that it go off and go through resistance, when it does proc that 50% chance, you want it to go through resistance. So you're going to have a little bit higher accuracy, whereas Ethna being 100%, you don't have to worry as much about getting like 50-60% accuracy because there's not a innate chance that she's going to miss the beneficial effect removal initially. So it makes him a little bit better than he was before, I think, because he still gets the low cooldown of skill 4. But if it was a 100% chance, that would make me go, ooh, I think I need to break out the Water Monkey King.
Gotcha. And when I think about the runes here, I guess, you know, the aspect of the invulnerability and immunity, I like to take advantage of that. So I generally wouldn't use it on a violent set. I think with the strip now in play, I think there's a little bit more reason to put it on the despair set. If you get lucky and strip the will, you can get a clutch stun. He does have an AoE, so it can make despair set viable. And then, of course, he already has a despair mechanic on the first skill. I think it's pretty unique. Would you go despair, or would you play around with like a different set?
I'd absolutely go despair, or maybe Swift, but probably despair.
Yep.
It depends on your sets, but I kind of do the same thing like with the Ethna, where ideally Ethna is on despair, but if she's not, because she still stuns. He still stuns with the first skill, but I would go despair. Definitely would not go violent because you want him to keep that immunity and vulnerability for that next turn.
Right, and then like you kind of said, if you don't have the speed alongside with the despair, you can use a swift set. And if you're trying to incorporate it into a comp that you need to strip an opponent so that you can, you know, combine it with like CR or something like that, and RTA or whatever the case may be, you can take advantage of it because you're going to be able to get the first turn and then sit back with the invulnerability with no question about, oh, hey, he's going to die or whatever. So, but yeah, really interesting monster with change, but again, just not relevant enough for us to put in our top 3. Next one up, though, we will go back to my original list here. This is one that I'm actually, right before I started this Fire Beast farming, I started to level up some skill ups for it. And Terry's the Fire Lich here. If you guys notice, his attack bar increase was an absorption rate of 50%. Now it's up to 25%. So for those that are new to the game, this is one of the sleeper monsters that a lot of people saw at the recent balance change, but didn't really think about incorporating up until, I think, a few months back. We had a couple of endgame G3 RTA players that were utilizing it in an aspect of a counter to a very fast kind of a yellow comp there. If they were running like Bastet, Tiana, and then 3 damage dealers, his passive Transcendence had a 50% chance to essentially steal a turn after the enemy's turn. So if somebody were to use a Tiana and remove all the beneficial effects on your team and the attack bar, it leaves it open for a unit like Antares to come on through, and if he's running like a despair set or something, he can go ahead and maybe get a clutch stun. Either way, the attack bar manipulation would assist in pulling the other unit's attack bar back and potentially having another unit that will be able to come through and kind of sneak in. So in my personal opinion, I felt that the absorption rate was nice, but the understanding of the Transcendence, that aspect, I think is what makes him unique. If they were to increase the chance, maybe I think he would be in our top 3 or whatnot, but that might be a little too OP. What's your take on it, Badhands?
Same exact thing. I mean, the sinkhole increasing absorption rate, I think that's a great buff. I think it was very much needed. If they changed his third skill to be like a 30 or 40% proc chance, I think that would increase his use a ton. You already have the Dark Horus that does that, but he's really the only counter to Tiana that I can think of, like, that actually has a chance to reduce attack bars and stun and stuff like that. So I would like to see another basically Tiana counter, and I think Firelich could be that unit, but they just need to buff that third skill up. I think this is a good step in the right direction with a second skill buff, but until that third skill is buffed, you're looking at a 15% chance. It's not the greatest odds there that he's actually going to proc after Tiana or after the buffer. So I think if you buff it up 30 or 40% chance on third skill, he'll be a very solid unit. But for now, he's still got some uses and still going to be solid. And now he's at least getting more absorption rate, because now he can get basically 75% attack bar back. So that's pretty nice.
Pretty nice indeed. And of course, when I think about just what we were talking about, incorporated him into that counter, obviously, if the team has like a Bastet Tiana, that's their 2 attack bar boosters. Generally speaking, on my end, I would be the one to ban Bastet over Tiana, simply for the fact that Bastet's going to give the attack bar buff to the other, monsters that are going yellow, and so Tiana is going to remove those beneficial effects. Furthermore, sometimes when people build these speed-based monsters, they're not really thinking about will, because their goal is to get that first turn. So if they have a different kind of attack bar booster that doesn't remove the beneficial effects on both sides like Tiana, I think you're still going to be at a good situation, because of the fact that, again, normally people are doing everything in their power to get that first turn, and they're not really thinking about will if they're confident in their ability to get the first turn. So really, really unique aspect on that. Anything you wanted to add?
I think that's about it for him.
Cool. All right, next one here. Let's talk about his brother, the light Antares, Mr. Halfus here. Really, really unique change. Endless Attachment. For those that don't know, his original passive is going to provide an invulnerability buff for at the 50% mark. So once you bring him down that threshold, he's going to get that invulnerability. Now, in addition to that, he will drain the life from the enemy whenever the enemy's turn ends while in the invincible effect is activated, and the stolen HP will be equivalent to 10% of your max HP. So pretty unique.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good buff for him. So basically how it's going to work, at least it's how it's written, is let's say Theomars is attacking him. Theomars hits him with his first skill, drops him below 50% HP. Antares is going to gain his, not sorry, Antares, what's his name? Shoot.
Halfus.
Fail.
Fail.
So Halfus is going to gain his invulnerability. And then, let's say Theo Violent procs, attacks other people, whatever, it's fine. Halfus has gotten invulnerability on. At the end of Theomars' turn, Halfus is going to steal 10% of Halfus' max HP from Theomars and heal himself, basically. So that's going to be pretty nice, because if that then pushes him above 50% HP, the next time he's attacked, he's going to proc his invulnerability again. I would still probably build him Vampire, because that's what you want to have happen anyways, is you want him to get that HP recovery, or use him with healers like Raccoony or Chasoon, where you can get a lot of heals and get him back above that 50%, because there is no cooldown timer on that passive. So he's got a little bit more usage now, I think, because he does a little bit of damage for free now when he gets reduced. The only thing I'm worried about is the TOA hard stage. It's going to be kind of annoying with that, but that's fine. We'll all deal with that. But I think hopefully now he's got a little bit more usage than he had before.
Gotcha. And when we think about the stolen HP equivalent to 10% of your max HP, would there be more value in building them in a little bit more of a hybrid fashion? Because 10% of his max HP can steal a good chunk from like a Theomars that may not be, be a little bit more squishy. What do you think about that? You still go Bruiser or sorry, more YOLO, or do you go Bruiser?
I would probably go like a HP crit damage attack build, so you kind of get that good amount of mix in there. I wouldn't necessarily go like HP crit damage unless you got really good attack subs, but I'd probably go that HP crit damage attack, so he gets above that 20k, 25k mark, so then he's stealing a pretty decent amount of HP, because 10% it's not a lot. If you got 10,000 HP or so, it's only 1,000 HP stealing. So that's not a whole lot, but if he's at like 25k, at least he's stealing, 2,500. So it's still not going to be a ton, but it's going to be enough over time, especially if you have him on Vamp, where then he can gain HP off his other skills too, that he'll push him back over that 50%.
Very cool. All right. Next one up that we got is Mr. Dova, the Light Harg. This is a monster that only a handful of people mentioned, but I think the changes that has been made is definitely unique, and it's going to make it relevant in there. So this passive called Buddy. Before, at the start of the fight, the attack speed of the ally with the lowest attack speed will be increased according to your level, and the ally's attack speed will not extend to your attack, or not exceed your attack speed, and the skill cannot be applied to allies with the same skill. But now it's going to allow you to become friends with the ally with the lowest HP. So this is something that you control if you are playing around it on the defensive side, and it's going to grant one of these abilities: attack, recovery, or endure, and effects according to the friend's HP status for 1 turn. So what we kind of interpreted from one of our other guildies gamer forum is that basically, you know, depending on the HP status, whether it's high or low, that's going to essentially determine which of these unique skills or beneficial effects here is going to be improved. So if you think about it, it's pretty unique because it is, if it's in a situation where it has critical health, you know, having that endure proc is extremely nice. Just to be able to, you know, get that available, especially on that passive, right? So, and I think this resets every turn, if I recall correctly. So, I mean, I think it adds a lot more value, and then for obviously reasons that we'll get into, but, you know, more importantly, Siege. I think 4-star Siege is going to be unique. Any thoughts on your end?
I think it's going to be a pretty big buff. From what we understand, if it's got full HP, so let's say you're using it with, let's just say Theomars. Because Theomars will have the lowest HP out of all your monsters. So if Theomars is at full HP, when the Light Heart goes, it's going to give him attack buff. So let's say he's got like lower HP, it's going to give him HP recovery, and if he's got lower health, he's going to give endure. What we don't know is the exact percentages on it, so it could be like 50% or above 50 or above 75, so we're not sure on that. But what the really nice thing is, especially if you've got something that is hard to kill, i.e. Trevor, that you're using with Dova, Trevor is going to be low HP. Dova goes before, gives him endure, so he can't die now. So he's going to do big damage on his next ability. So for 4-star Siege, I think that's going to be pretty big on using with units like Trevor and certain things like that, or even Ramagos, because they get that low HP. You don't want him to die. So if Dova goes, gives him endure, now he's not going to die. Obviously, Ramagos would be hard because you have to be the lowest HP in the team, but
right.
So any type of monster like that, where all of a sudden he gets endure, okay, now we're looking at a pretty good support monster there. So is Dova really going to be super OP? Probably not, but I think it's going to be a great option if you got him. Obviously, it's a light and dark 4-star, so he's harder to get, but I think it's going to be a really, really good buff for him.
It is. It is. Next one up that we got is Corona. Now, for those that have been following me all the way back in the day since 2014, this was actually the first light and dark natural 4-star monster that I pulled. I actually built a really weird team, which was called the Dream Team. I think it was Beretta, Hua, and then I don't know if it was Veramos that I added up in there. It might have been somebody else, and then Corona. So basically what I did was I brought all these dots in play, used Corona to remove the harmful effects, and then sleep it, and then use Hua to kind of focus one down at a time. Now, in this instance, it got changed where the 100% activation rate to remove harmful effects on the enemies and put them to sleep has now been, essentially, I think it's been reduced. It's now removes the harmful effect and the beneficial effect on the enemies by a 50% chance. Each enemy is put to sleep for the number of turns equal to the number of beneficial effects removed. So there's a lot of, controversy. I don't say controversy, but a lot of question that I have for there. Does the 100% on the harmful effect removal is still in play, or is it 50% for both? What's going on there? And then when you think about the Brownie Magicians, the additional turns on it, sure, it can generate a lot of turns, but is it going to be useful if you get if you land a sleep and you get them sleep for 3 turns, and then you use your first skill to proc some additional turns? Obviously, your goal is not to remove a 3-turn sleep to do it. And then what about the dots, like Badhands was saying to me earlier? If the 50% chance is not in place and the dots stay on there, but you sleep some other beneficial effects, will the dots wake him up? That's an interesting question there.
That's the hard part with him. It's just how it's written right now. It's hard to understand. Is it still 100% on the harmful effects and only 50% for the beneficial, or is it 50% for both? If it's 50% for both, I kind of think this is a nerf, because it's for that exact reason. If you're using him with something that puts dots on, if you only have a 50% chance to turn that into a sleep, well, if let's say you used like Beretta and Area, so like Beretta, Area, Corona, so you get all those debuffs on there, and then you go to remove them all and turn them into sleeps, well, then all of a sudden it's got one dot on it, and now it stays awake. It's just going to wake up the next turn, even though you got 3 turns of sleep on it. It doesn't matter. One dot wakes it up immediately. So it's really hard to tell depending on how it's written. But I think if it stays 100% on the harmful effects and 50% on the beneficial effects, I still think it's kind of a buff, but still not really good enough because Corona wakes everything with his next skill anyways. So it's kind of hard to use him with, like, say, the succubuses who don't wake anything up from sleep. Or like Hathor, who can sleep on 2 skills. So yeah, I think it makes him slightly more usable, but a little bit harder to use, in my opinion.
Right. Anybody that's been like me, that's been holding on to it for months on end, like, I'm pretty excited about playing around with it. And you just made a comment about the unit. That was the 4th unit that I incorporated. It was Arya because of the 2 harmful effects on the 2nd skill. And then, of course, if you're running the Despair set, you have the potential to have 3 harmful effects on top of the Beretta's 2 dots. So that was a fun one. I definitely will probably make some content down the road, bringing the Dream Team back, have some fun in the arena, since I haven't made a arena video since, like, 2014. So it'll be pretty fun. I recently built Izaria. So Izaria, Area, Beretta, Corona, who knows? It should be fun to mess around with and see how high we can get up in the arena. But either way, guys.
For Guild Wars, he might be interesting, though, using him to go first and then followed up by 2 succubuses. Right. So let's say you're going against a Wusa or something, or a Chloe. You have him go first and put the enemies to sleep, and then they're using skills not to wake him up, and then he can hit that target too. That could be interesting. So that's the definite buff on him, but the 50%, again, it's risky.
Yeah, it's very risky for sure. Let's see. I think that should be it. One thing that we didn't want to mention here, or I forgot to mention there, the Wind Dice Magician had a unique passive change, revives 1 ally. Now it's going to be reviving all allies. I think our thought process was we kind of like the buff, but again, the RNG aspect is super RNG. It's not something you can heavily rely on. I mean, if you get a violence set on it, you could get lucky, but ultimately, too much RNG to be considered really, really beneficial. I don't know.
With all Dice Magicians, that's how they are. It's very RNG dependent. So if you're using them, you know that going in, it's going to be random.
Yeah. That's pretty much it on the units that we're looking at. I just want to get some final thoughts from both of us here. I will kind of start with me. Obviously, I got to give a big shout out to ChildishPlays here, because again, this has been a very, very long time since they actually made a balance patch where I felt like a good majority of the monsters were worth like messing around with, testing out. And if you guys kind of take a look between the lines here, we got a ton of these monsters here that have been buffed, that have passives. So with the incorporation of the new Guild Wars Sieges, you got some, and the inability to use Tessarion in the 4-star things, you got a lot more options here. Furthermore, you got a couple of units in the natural 5-star category that could be potential options for Guild Wars Siege. So even if they're not the perfect buff, I think it's kind of a way of saying, hey, we got this new thing implemented. We want you guys to build new units. Now we're going to give you a reason to do so. What about your final thoughts? Anything?
The big thing is they at least tried to give buffs to the monsters that people have been asking for a long time. I mean, people, every single time we got a balance patch, people ask for Vanessa, Shihu, Chandra. They always ask for them. So they at least tried to give them something. And whether or not you agree, like, okay, it's going to be amazing or it's going to be different, they at least tried to give it some sort of buff. So at least they are listening. And I still think they made some really good changes. And hopefully some of these monsters will become a lot more used now.
Yep, definitely. Cool. That's pretty much all I got. Again, guys, if you didn't hear at the beginning of the video, Epic Fail Delta will be looking at about 4 members to fill in our Siege rank. So if you're interested in that, I need you guys to go ahead and hit me up on email, childish402@gmail.com. In addition to that, I've told you guys every single time we've come on board with badhands, but ultimately, he's our Epic Fail Delta co-leader. He's a good friend to me, but if you guys didn't know, he is a Summoners War YouTuber. As of late, he's been extremely busy with work. Hasn't been able to put out a ton of videos, but when he does, I find them very informative, just simply for the fact that he understands the game inside and out. And if you haven't seen his monster box, it makes you cringe no end. So for all of you guys that have a lot of monsters, he has done the work to get the runes, and he builds quite a few different units to do. Again, very, very strong on the education educational site, so you can learn something if you guys take the time to go ahead and check him out. So do me the favor of clicking his YouTube link. It's going to be in the description down below. Outside of that, my man, thank you again, Bad Hands, for coming on board and doing this video. I appreciate you taking the time to do it.
No problem, Childish. Thanks for having me.
All right, and that's going to be it, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish with Childish Plays. Check it out alongside with Bad Hands. Take care, and we will see you all next time. We're out.